I am sick of my car stereo. I already complained about its lack of features in my last video, but just to recap, my 2003 Mitsubishi's stereo unit does not hold up to modern standards. So, I'm going to get a new stereo. Car stereos aren't pricey, but there isn't really much of a challenge in buying one and throwing it into your dash. Instead, I'm going to try build one of my own for as cheap as possible. So these are my aims: to build my own car stereo circuit that connects with my phone via Bluetooth, and to do it on a budget. To do this, we're going to need a few parts. Firstly, you need an amplifier circuit. The amplifier takes a low-level signal, like one you might get out of the headphone jack on your phone or a Bluetooth adapter, and increases the size of the signal so it can power speakers. You can make your own simple amplifier circuit using schematics you find on the internet and components from a local electronics store. I've done this in the past and it's definitely something worth considering, but the easier and cheaper option is to buy an amplifier kit from China. I got this circuit from Banggood for a little over $10, which is cheaper than if you buy the parts separately. I ordered 2 of these since they were so cheap, and funnily enough, one of them came assembled and the other came in a kit that you had to solder together, so be prepared to do some work. The circuit itself takes an RCA input signal and outputs into stereo, and it runs off 12 volt power, which is exactly what you want for a car. And that brings us to the second item we need, our Bluetooth adapter. Again, I got this one shipped in from China for around $10. Things to look out for when you choose your Bluetooth adapter include its input voltage. Some of these only take 5 volt power, while others are a bit more flexible. Remember, we need something that takes 12 volts provided by the car. Also take note of which version of Bluetooth the device supports. Bluetooth 4.0 would be ideal, but 3.0 is tolerable. Any earlier than that and it really isn't suited to music, even in the setting of a car stereo. The last thing we need is an adapter that lets us plug the stereo into the car's power output and the speaker terminals. Cars typically have their own custom socket for their stereo units. You don't want to cut this socket up and solder directly to it in case you ever want to upgrade your stereo again. The solution to this is to buy an adapter which you can then cut and solder on. You will need to identify the positive power terminal and the positive and negative terminals for each speaker. That's the left and right, front and back speakers. I connected both the front and back left speakers to the same terminal and the right, front and back to the same terminal. While this isn't ideal, we're not going for high fidelity sound here. Notice how there is no negative wire in this setup. This is because most cars don't run a negative wire and instead use the chassis in connection with the negative terminal of the battery. You can screw down the negative connection to a metallic beam inside the car dashboard and it will connect indirectly to the car battery's negative terminal. For the positive power terminal, you might have a bit of choice. There will be a positive power terminal that is constantly powered even when the car is off, as well as one which only provides power when the key is in the ignition. This is the one you want since an amplifier, even if it isn't playing music, still draws power and you don't want it to drain your car battery flat overnight. Now, let's put this all together. First step is to connect the amplifier to the Bluetooth receiver. There are 3 signals to deal with here. First, the positive left signal, the positive right signal, and the ground. The Bluetooth chip only has 1 ground terminal while the amplifier has 2 ground terminals, so at some point in your connection you will have to divide the ground. Notice how I have wound the ground and active cables together. This isn't just to keep the cables neat, it reduces the interference you pick up on these cables. I put this all together and gave a quick test run on my benchtop power supply. Both the amplifier and Bluetooth module connect to the 12 volt supply. I then run an audio cable from the Bluetooth chip to the amplifier circuit. With everything in order, you can then mount it in your car. You can buy a box made out of aluminium or plastic to put this in, but I opted for the cheaper option. I decided to mount this on a plank of wood, since we are trying to save money. I screwed on all the parts to the plank. Now let's put this in the car. As always, when working in your car, remember to take off the negative terminal on your car battery. You don't want to accidentally blow a fuse. Take apart your dashboard and find the car power socket that usually plugs into the back of the original amplifier. Every car model has a different way of taking apart the dashboard, so check with your user manual. Once you've found the plug, insert our new stereo. Once you're done, close it all up. And here it is, the cheapest car stereo I could conceive. It has a total cost of around $30, which is around half of what you can expect to pay for even the most bottom model of car stereo units. When we power on the car, the stereo powers on as well and can connect via Bluetooth to my phone. Volume is controlled on the knob that came with the amplifier circuit. So, I hope you found this interesting. If you like this project, please be sure to check out some of my other ambitious builds on the channel.